Listen carefully. Most women want to be liked. They want attention. They want validation. They want to feel chosen. But there's a difference between being liked and being remembered, because being liked is temporary. It fades. It gets replaced. It gets forgotten. But being remembered, that stays. It stays long after the conversation ends, long after you leave the room, even long after you're no longer in his life. And this is where older women move differently. They don't compete for attention. They don't try to be the most attractive in the room. They don't chase validation. They imprint. Before we go deeper into this, pause for a second. Be honest with yourself. Are you someone who gives more in relationships or someone who holds back? Do you tend to invest early or wait and observe? And another thing, are you currently dealing with someone younger or someone at your level? Because most women don't realize this. You don't stay in a man's mind because of how you look. You stay because of how you made him feel. And feelings don't fade as quickly as attention does. Now listen carefully. The first thing an older woman does that makes her unforgettable is this. She has emotional control. This is where everything begins, because most people react. They react to texts. They react to tone. They react to attention and the lack of it. If he pulls away, they chase. If he delays, they overthink. If his energy shifts slightly, they feel it instantly. And that reaction gives away everything. It shows investment. It shows attachment. It shows that their emotional state is tied to his behavior. But an older woman moves differently. She feels everything, but she doesn't react instantly. She notices without panicking. She observes without chasing. She processes before responding. And that creates something powerful. Control. Now understand this clearly. Control is not about suppressing your emotions. It's about not letting your emotions control your actions, because when you react too quickly, you become predictable. And predictability is forgettable. But when your responses are calm, measured, and intentional, it creates something else. Mystery. Now he starts thinking. Now he starts wondering. Now he starts paying attention. Because he can't fully read you. And when something cannot be fully understood, it stays in the mind longer. Now compare that to emotional reactivity, fast replies, immediate reactions, constant availability. There's no space, no tension, no curiosity. Everything is already known. But emotional control creates distance, not physical distance, psychological space. And that space allows him to think about you, to replay moments, to analyze your responses, to feel your absence. And that is where memory begins. Now, this is where most women get it wrong. They think reacting quickly shows interest. They think being expressive shows connection. But too much, too fast, removes the very thing that creates impact. Because what is always available is rarely remembered. But what is controlled, what is intentional, what is not easily predictable, stays. Now listen carefully, because this is where it becomes even more powerful. An older woman doesn't just control her emotions, she controls her presence. And this is where most women lose their impact without even realizing it. The second thing an older woman does that keeps her in his mind is this. She is selectively present. This is where everything shifts. Because presence is not just about being there. It's about how often and how intentionally you are there. Most women think being available will make them more important. So they respond quickly. They make time instantly. They adjust their schedule without hesitation. And slowly, their presence becomes predictable. Now understand this clearly. When something is always available, it loses value. Not because it isn't good, but because it's always there. There's no anticipation, no build-up, nothing to miss. But an older woman moves differently. She doesn't disappear to play games. She simply doesn't make herself constantly available. She has her own life, her own routine, her own priorities. And that creates something powerful, Space. Now listen carefully. Space is what allows someone to feel your absence, and absence is what creates memory. When you're always there, he doesn't have time to think about you. But when your presence is selective, when you show up and then naturally step back, something shifts. He starts noticing. He starts wondering. He starts missing the energy you brought into that moment. Now compare that to constant availability. He knows you'll reply. He knows you'll be there. He knows he doesn't have to do much to keep you, and that certainty removes effort. But when your presence is not guaranteed, when your time is not easily accessible, something changes. Now he invests. Now he pays attention. Now he values the moments he gets with you. Because what is not easily available becomes more meaningful. Now listen carefully. This is not about being distant. It's about being intentional. Because there is a difference. Being distant creates disconnection. Being intentional creates attraction. An older woman knows when to engage and when to step back. She doesn't overstay moments. She doesn't force conversations. She allows things to flow naturally. And that natural flow creates something rare, a feeling that is not forced, a connection that feels effortless, and effortlessness is unforgettable. Now listen to this final part carefully, because this is where everything becomes permanent. The third thing an older woman does that makes her impossible to forget is this. She creates deep emotional impact. This is the difference between temporary attraction and lasting memory. Because men don't remember everything. They don't remember every conversation. They don't remember every detail. But they always remember how someone made them feel. Now understand this clearly. Most connections are surface level. They're based on looks, on attention, on temporary excitement. But those things fade because they don't go deep enough. But when a woman creates emotional impact, it stays. Because now it's not just about attraction, it's about experience. She listens without judgment. She understands without trying to fix everything. She responds in a way that makes him feel seen. And that feeling is rare. Because most people don't feel understood. They feel heard, but not understood. And when someone makes you feel understood, it creates something deeper than attraction. It creates attachment. Now compare that to surface level interaction. Talking, but not connecting. Listening, but not feeling. Engaging, but not understanding. Those moments don't stay. But emotional depth creates memory. Because now he doesn't just remember you, he feels you. Now listen carefully, because this is where everything comes together. Up to this point, you've seen the difference between being liked and being remembered, between attention and impact, between presence and imprint. And here is the truth most women never fully understand. You don't stay in a man's mind because you tried harder. You stay because you were different, not louder, not more available, not more emotional, just different in how you carried yourself. Now this is where the real shift happens. You stop asking, how do I make him remember me? And you start understanding what kind of energy actually stays with someone even when I'm not there. Because memory is not built through effort. It's built through feeling. Now listen carefully. An older woman who stays in his mind forever is not trying to be unforgettable. She simply is. Because she's not forcing anything. She's not overgiving. She's not over-explaining. She's not over-investing. She's present when she chooses to be. She's calm when others would react. She's deep when others stay surface level. And that combination is rare. Now compare that to what most people do. They try to hold attention. They try to be perfect. They try to say the right things at the right time. And in that process, they lose authenticity. But authenticity is what creates real impact. Because when something feels real, it stays. Now listen carefully. You don't need to say everything. You don't need to show everything. You don't need to give everything, because the moment you give too much, too fast, you remove the experience of discovery. And discovery is what keeps someone thinking about you. Now this is the final shift. You stop chasing emotional reactions, and you start creating emotional presence. Because there is a difference. Reactions are temporary. They happen in the moment and fade quickly. But presence, the way you made someone feel calm, the way you made them feel understood, the way you made them feel something they don't usually feel, that stays. Now understand this clearly. A man may forget what you said. He may forget what you wore. He may forget small details, but he will never forget how he felt when he was with you. And if that feeling was rare, if it was calm, grounded, real, it becomes something he compares everything else to. Now listen, you don't stay in his mind by competing. You stay by being irreplaceable. And being irreplaceable does not come from doing more. It comes from being someone he doesn't experience often. Now take a breath. Let go of the need to be perfect. Let go of the need to be remembered by trying. Let go of the idea that you have to do something extra to stand out. Because you don't. You just need to understand what actually creates impact. And once you do, you stop forcing connections. And you start creating experiences. Experiences that stay. Experiences that linger. Experiences that don't fade, even with time. Because the right kind of connection doesn't just exist in the moment. It stays long after it's over. And that is what makes you unforgettable.